told Brian, I'm like, why are we missing a sign? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know, maybe somebody just, it wouldn't be the first time that somebody took it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for coming to the Village of Dundee Council meeting tonight, August 20th, 2019. Could we have the roll call of order, please?
President Bodine,
Here.
Trustee Polito,
Here.
Trustee Hickey,
Here.
Trustee McClendon,
Here.
Trustee Reeves,
Here.
Trustee Horky,
Here.
Trustee Schroeder,
Present.
Manager Yule.
Here.
When we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, could we please have a little extra silence for Joyce Clark, who passed away? She was a staple in our community. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll get it next time. I know. Me, you win. There's a stand. Me, Michael.
And Joyce was a very nice person. She was a staple in our community for 82 years. She was a babysitter, seamstress. She sewed many prom dresses, patched up the firemen's uniforms, and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, put window drapes in, and she'll be sadly missed. She was a very nice person and a staple of the community. So now we will start with approval of tonight's agenda. Do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with the removal of item 8B under new business. That was a recommendation from the clerk. Second.
There's been a motion by Trustee Hickey and seconded by Trustee Horky to amend tonight's agenda to remove 8B. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have a motion to approve tonight's minutes. July, yes. 5A, do we have approval to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of July 15th, 2019?
So moved. Seconded.
Okay. There's been a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of July 15th, 2019. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Well, we need to back up first of all because there was no discussion on B,
Tonight's agenda.
8B,
Okay.
right?
What's
Yep.
that?
I was just curious why it was getting taken off. Establish fees for residential rental inspections.
It's being taken off, Mr. McClendon, because we need to do more investigation into it. A couple things came up when we were checking with other municipalities.
And those would be,
We'll find out in further investigation. It came up late today.
all right. Thank you.
Now we'll go back to approval of the regular meeting minutes of July 15th. The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we go to 6A, a thank you letter under the petitions and communications, a thank you letter from the Mayfly Festival. And I will read it here. It says, to the Village of Dundee, thank you for your partnership in making the 2019 Mayfly Festival another success. We truly appreciate your partnership. The Mayfly Music Festival Committee. Is there a motion to,
We have to have the citizens.
is there? Okay. Citizens' comments. Is there anybody out in the audience that have citizens' comments on tonight's agenda? Okay, now there's we go back to petitions and communications. Is there a motion to accept the petitions and communications and place on file?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by trustee Hickey and seconded by trustee McClendon. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Tonight's consent agenda for payment of the bills of $295,199.61. Is there a motion to pay the past month's bills?
I move to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by trustee Hickey and seconded by trustee Horton to accept the consent agenda, the payment of bills of $295,199.61. All in favor?
Aye.
No, it's a roll call.
Roll call.
That's roll call.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hickey,
Yes.
trustee McClendon,
Yes.
trustee Reeves,
Yes.
trustee Horky,
Yes.
trustee Schroeder,
Yes.
trustee Polito,
Yes.
President Bodine.
Yes.
The motion's carried.
Now we go to new business 8A, ordinance number 01-2019, and an ordinance to amend the blight regulations.
This is, we talked about this before, and as we try to take care of different blight situations, we run into different problems, and this is a simple resolution to do some revisions of streamlining our process, allowing the building department to better deal with different situations, and also we've been running into trouble with abandoned vehicles on the property, private property, and this will allow the ordinance to be enforced with that. So it's just kind of a cleaning up the ordinance a little bit.
Fred, I do have a couple of questions. I don't know if you want to.
I don't have a copy with me, so give me a copy. I don't remember what I did yesterday. So. You have a copy of this.
Everyone got it on their
I have one here.
computers.
Here,
Yeah, I know they won't have it. Thanks to the attorney. So,
it's right here.
okay.
So my first question is on page 2.
Okay.
Under front yards, 3.
Okay.
Not the little 3, 2, 3. It says that recreational equipment, including but not limited to bicycles, toys, and outdoor furniture. Then later it says, in that same paragraph at the end, it says that it should not prohibit incidental use of lawn or porch furniture. I know that some people have those swings and benches and whatnot, which in what would be considered their front yard. So is that considered incidental use? Or is that something that if we pass this as is, that they have to remove their swings? Because the swings and benches that I saw in people's yards, I mean, they're nice and well kept.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about swings and benches. What we're talking about is people bringing out, somebody taking the sofa out of their living room and putting it in the front yard, or just, that sort of thing, not.
Well, that's later spelled out in the ordinance. And then the other thing in that same paragraph that, sort of concerned me is, we're talking about bicycles and toys and things like that, and that they can't be in somebody's yard for more than 2 days. My children frequently ride their bikes home, and it's in my front yard sometimes for a week at a time because they're back and forth, back and forth. Am I then also in violation of this blight law?
Well, it says limited to though, so I mean,
We can change that. I mean, look, I don't really have a problem. I think the idea was, you don't want people storing their stuff out in the front yard. It's not that they
Right.
can't keep their stuff outside. I mean, they can just keep it in the backyard or, away. But you don't want them, all of a sudden, now the front yard becomes, a storage facility for their stuff.
Right. I
That's
just
what
don't want somebody to be held in violation of this when it's like we can say all we want that we're not going to be that strict, but if it's in the ordinance,
Well, I agree
we
with
have a
you.
right to be that strict. And that's actually one of the paragraphs that, we later do say that we don't want interior furniture outside. So like, in my opinion, if that entire paragraph was removed or revised, it would probably be a, good idea.
I have no problem with that at all. One of the things is that this is, obviously, what we're trying to do is just to maintain some degree of lack of clutter in the front yards, because you can see, and you can go down, and I don't know whether it's a big problem here in town, but there's communities that where I represent, you go down and you see basically, it looks like a garage sale sitting out in front of their house.
Oh, and I 100% agree with that. And I actually feel that the spirit of this ordinance is actually in good nature and it leads to less subjectivity. I just don't want us to go so far as to, prohibit things that there's really not a reason to be prohibited.
And that's
So-
fine, we can amend this. I have no problem with making some changes here, if that's what you want to do.
I got a few questions too.
And if you will, just so that you know, as you know, this is an amendment, and it is, we already have many of these regulations are already in place relative to
Well,
outdoor storage and things of that nature, but it definitely does provide a more specific.
it's
statement.
definitely far more comprehensive, because when I looked up the last ordinance, there's actually only 7 points.
Right,
And this new one has well over 20.
right.
Which is why I started looking and comparing what's the difference, what's going on. The other thing that I noticed in this is on page 3 on point 8, we talk about grass and weeds, which is good. We also have a noxious weed ordinance that says that it can't be over 8 inches for a residential property and then 10 for a vacant land. And then we have 8 listed here. So would this blight ordinance, is it meant to cover all property? Or is
No,
there,
it's really-
is there a discrepancy that we just didn't pick up on?
I think, look, it's probably just something that I didn't pick up on. I knew it was 8 inches for residential. I wasn't aware of the 10 inches for all other properties. I thought it was all 8 inches. So I can change that to bring it into conformity with the noxious weeds.
I think the township made it 8 inches too in their last few meetings.
And I do want to apologize, Fred, I'm not.
No, it's fine.
I actually I did my comparison a little bit late today, so that's the problem.
And listen, this is a, as with every ordinance I give you, I am not telling you, you know this,
Oh,
but
I
I just
know,
want for
yeah.
the members of the audience to know this. This is not a recommendation necessarily, it's a template for you to look at. You can change whatever, if you feel that a particular, it certainly doesn't hurt my feelings, nor does it affect me in terms of whatever you want. You people will tell me how to write this. I'm just giving you a suggestion. If you think that it needs to be changed,
So
we'll change it.
could you please stand up here and answer a few more questions?
Sure,
Anybody else?
I'm not going anywhere.
that has-
I'm here, you got me.
All right. I got a question on the page 2, the front yards. Front yards shall comply with the village's zoning ordinance requirements and shall not be used for parking purposes except as permitted in the zoning code.
Right.
Okay, so in my walks, I noticed that we have some, like on Pearl Street, it's a one-way street. There's only room enough for 1 car, and a lot of people have 2 cars, so they are parking in their front yards. And,
They're parking in their front yards or their driveway that happens to be at the front of the house.
Yeah, I think that's more of it, it's a
If it's in their
driveway, 'cause a lot of them are
driveway,
driveways
it
right
complies
there.
with the zoning ordinance.
okay, what about here on Monroe Street? there's a couple houses, Stow's old house.
Is there a driveway?
There is a driveway, but it's only enough for one car.
If it's a driveway,
And then
then
they're
they're
parking in
fine
their
if they're
front
parking in
yard.
their, it's,
They're parking in their front yard. They're parking one car in the driveway and one in the front yard because
well,
they
then
don't
that's a
have.
problem.
That's right, and that's, I don't think it's fair to some of these houses that are, like on Pearl Street's one way, and there's a couple houses on Monroe Street that they don't have room for 2 parking spots in their driveway.
Right,
And then I noticed people on First Street, they park in their,
yeah, because I see what you're saying, because on Pearl Street, they would literally have to start parking a car basically in the backyard or
Yes.
part of the backyard,
yes,
so that they wouldn't be parked in the front yard instead of, because I understand what you're saying there, Tim.
okay. So maybe we ought to take a look at this part too, and
Well,
amended
I
or
don't have any,
something.
again, it's really up to the pleasure of the council what you want to do with it. Most communities do not permit parking in the front yard itself.
Right.
The problem with that, once you start allowing parking in the front yard is, it just detracts from the look of the neighborhood and can have a deleterious effect.
I understand that.
And all of a sudden now it looks like, people are just parking wherever they want.
Right.
And I understand what you're saying, Tim, I really do. I'm not saying that it isn't necessarily going to have an adverse impact on some people. But the question becomes is now you just have to weigh, and this is a decision for you guys to make, is do you want to weigh the benefits of having people not park in their front yards versus the inconvenience that it causes to a limited number of people to do that, so.
There's a rental house just down the road here, a quarter mile, and the rental in back is fine with the driveway, and then the rental in front has gravel, because it says here on 14.3, the motor vehicle is not parked on an approved hard surface. So then again, the people with 2 cars, one of them is parking in the driveway for the front of the apartment, and then the back apartment is using the driveway for their back, so they need to park in front of the house, and then they have 2 cars, so now they're parking one on the gravel and one on the grass. So I
Well,
think
the gravel's fine, that's a hard
yeah,
surface.
yes, but the
Right.
grass, they have 2 cars in the
Well,
front.
and the other thing you have to think about, people parking on the grass, now all of a sudden, as you point out, it's not a hard surface. So what happens when, what happens if it's raining?
Sure.
And all of a sudden, they start spinning out? I mean, you're going to have to make some choices here.
Trenches.
I mean, you're going to have to make some choices. If you want to allow it, I can modify this to change that, but ultimately, that's a decision that you guys are going to have to make relative to that. I think that there's nothing per se illegal about parking in your front yard. It's not like there's any kind of a statute or anything that says you can't park in your front yard. It's really a matter of public. But I will say that I don't know of any community that I represent, and I represent a bunch of them, that allows people to park their vehicles on their front lawns. I just don't know of any.
Yep.
I mean, it's not something I've ever seen anywhere else because of the fact that now all of a sudden, you start seeing people just pulling their vehicles up on the lawn.
But I don't want to punish somebody that's already here and
Well, I
has
understand.
2 vehicles, and there is no room to park but the front yard. I know, it does look bad, but in some instances in town, there isn't very many, but maybe I've seen 3 or 4. And I think that we should address that so they don't get in trouble.
I mean, there's-
We don't want to punish them.
I don't know what the situation is, whether they don't have sufficient space to park their vehicles on the side of their house, or whether they don't have an area to park and, they have no garage. I don't know what the
There
situation
is
is.
no garage, and there is no room to park on the side of their house.
So in these instances, I'm just throwing out an example. If they're parking in the grass because they don't have a location, is there any way that they could simply put down gravel and make that actually
Yeah,
an
that's what I
extension
was
of
wondering.
the driveway? And then now it doesn't look so bad as we're just parking in the grass, and they'd be in compliance with the ordinance if we pass it as is.
But these are renters, and it's up to the homeowner if they can afford to put all this extra stuff on there. Now, the one on Pearl Street that I noticed, I don't think there is room. It's just a short driveway between the first row, and you're not gonna get two cars, and you're gonna have to play musical cars every time you have the front car to get out. I just think we should not.
I
address it.
understand all sides of this. My thing is, I want this community to emulate what we're trying to, which is attract businesses, attract people, and make it look like a nice community. And I don't think that, I understand there's individual circumstances, but I don't think we should be parking on the grass, and I'm in support of the way it is. And I think that it's up to the landlord and it's up to the homeowner to figure out how to comply with this, with adding spaces, with adding gravel, and putting appropriate parking spots down that meet the need of the tenants that they have.
See, the problem with what you're suggesting, Tim, is let's assume you make, for the exception, you change the rule, okay? Now, how do I tell somebody that has adequate parking, you can't park in your front lawn? Well, you let that guy park in his front lawn. So I think these are one of those situations where you're gonna have to, and I don't know how much
but we're
policing we
punishing.
wanna necessarily do either. I don't wanna turn our police department into, having to go in and do site checks there. Well, you got enough, how do we decide? Do they have enough room for parking, or do they not have enough room for parking? It really does make it more
All the
difficult.
new houses do have room for parking, but I'm talking about your 75 to 125-year-old homes that do not.
And
I don't-
again,
I don't-
if
these
that's
are-
what council, I can change, if council wants me to figure some language out that'll say that, in those areas where there is, an inadequate, is there only parking on one side of the street on those streets?
There's no parking on
No
Pearl Street.
parking
It's
on
a
street?
one-way street.
Okay. Is that,
It's also-
how wide is
And then-
that street?
It's also a thoroughfare for in case M50 is anything was to happen, they also use that as a, what do you call it, bypass?
And the house down the road here, just a quarter mile down the road, they have a driveway, but the apartment's in the back, so that person is parking in the back, but then the apartment in the front has gravel, then they have two cars, so now we're forcing, they can't block the people in the back. These are just things that I've noticed. I don't know the people.
Again, when it comes to the rentals and stuff, though, that's kind of like what Fred said and what Councilman Bryant said, is that that's gonna be up to the landlords and the rental people to figure that out on who's gonna, pay for what and what's gonna cost or whatever, because they're gonna have to actually comply with it one way or another. And
Yeah, it's definitely not a surprise that they're in this situation. Regardless if the tenant only has one vehicle and they decide to get two, they understand that the space is only a certain amount of size, so I'm in favor of keeping it the way it is.
Okay, then here we got section 34-28. Supervision and enforcement, it says the village manager shall be responsible for the administration, supervision, and implementation of the enforcement of this chapter, and the village manager may designate one or more persons as enforcement officers to enforce the provisions of this chapter. I really don't think that we should have the village manager do it when he should.
Well,
it
he's
says
not
it-
really doing it.
It previously said council, but this changed it to village manager. But we also say that the village manager is in charge of supervising and the hiring and firing. And so if you have to pay the blight inspector to do the inspections for their work hours, that would fall under his capacity as village manager to both supervise and hire and fire the employees of the office. So it was kind of wrong before. So this is cleaning it up to be in line with the policies that we've designated for Dave to follow.
Do you really want one person to do that, or should
No.
we-
It says that he's
It's not
designated.
one
He's
person,
responsible
Kevin.
to make sure it gets done.
He is responsible for selecting the individual who's going to be responsible for actually doing the policing. For example, he could designate, whether it's the ordinance enforcement officer or the building official, he does not personally have to go out and do this work. It's just saying basically, he's in charge and he can then designate individuals to perform that work. So that's the way, it works.
All right,
He's
thank
not
you.
gonna be doing it himself, no.
Because that's more duties added on all the time.
Yeah, no, and he's not, I never anticipated that he's gonna be driving around looking at
Yeah,
to see
yeah.
whether or not the firewood is stacked properly. That's the job of our zoning officials. You know, he can designate the officials, the local official to take care of. Because some of this stuff should be properly looked at, but through zoning, some of it building code. It's not necessarily gonna be one individual who's going to be looking at all potential issues. And as issues arise, he can elect who he's gonna send out to take a look at it based upon the nature of the complaint. You know, if it's a building code issue, that he can have the building official. If it's a zoning issue, he can have some zoning official, but it's not necessarily him.
So what's the council's pleasure here?
I want to ask one more question related to the enforcement to Fred, if we don't.
Yep.
And this is related to that same section. So at first we say in B that they have 3 days to abate the violation. And then the paragraph below that if they don't do it within 7 days, then they can get the civil infraction notice.
Right.
But then later in 3430, it says that each day that a violation of the standards occur, it's a separate offense.
Right.
Is that normal? 'Cause
That's
it sounds
standard.
to me
That's
like,
standard language.
okay.
That
'Cause
is
it sounds to
standard
me
language.
like you could get like in trouble like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
You could. The truth of the matter is, in the some 20-some years that civil infractions have been available, first of all, every ordinance I've ever seen has that same language.
Okay,
That's not uncommon. It's not, believe me, it is completely, that is the fact, I've never seen any ordinance that really didn't have that language.
okay,
But on the other hand, I gotta tell you, in the 27 years I've been doing this, we've never done that.
Okay.
The reason for that is if someone is really being intransigent and completely ignoring us, we could literally go out and what I've told, and what I tell my communities that I represent is, my goal in drafting this is not to collect money from people. I really don't want their money. If I don't want if I can get them to comply, that's what I want. This isn't a fee-generating process that we're involved in here. What we're trying to do is to get people to comply, to keep our community looking good. And as long as they do that, it has been always been my recommendation, look, if you take care of this, I'll dismiss the ticket. I don't even want your money. I just want you to comply. And that's been my policy, and it's, unless someone tells me differently, that would continue to be my policy. Because the goal of our community is not to financially harm people or to we don't want to make money off of them. What we want them to do is to take care of their properties so that our community looks good. And, if they do that, how much money am I going to, I'll waste more money going to court than I am going to make anyways. So my goal is to get them to comply, and that's always my goal. This is not a money-making venture. And the reason like I said, the reason I have the thing about that, every day is a violation, is it does provide me a hammer. Now, all of a sudden, you got 5 tickets because, it exists. Now you're going to maybe start paying attention to what I'm telling you. You may have ignored it before, but again, I've never collected, and I have never even had the opportunity where we've issued a ticket 5 days in a row. I don't think we've ever issued a ticket 2 days in a row. It's not something that happens. It just gives us a hammer that we can use it for someone who's being real intransigent. But by and large, 99% of the people that I deal with, 99% of the time, once they get even the notice that they have to take care of it, it gets taken care of. This is just to provide the hammer in the event that they completely ignore us. But most people, once you tell them, they take care of the problem. And as I said, even after I've issued a ticket, I tell them, take care of the problem and the ticket will go away. I don't want your money. What I want you to do is to comply. And I think that's probably the feeling of most of the community. I know it's the feeling of all the communities I represent now, and I would presume it's also the feeling you guys have. We're not here to collect money off the residents. We don't want their money. We want their compliance.
And the perception that I'm thinking about is, if I'm a next-door neighbor of somebody who's in violation of some of these things, I may not particularly like the fact that my next-door neighbor has allowed things to get out of control and it's a detraction. So, or it's a safety hazard for my children or whatever. So we have to look at the 99% that really want everything to be cleaned up. So it's not a safety hazard. It's not a sore thumb in the community. So I'm going to move forward and say I support that we accept it as is.
My biggest problem is, like I said, that paragraph about the outdoor furniture. And then there's two inconsistencies between our zoning ordinances regarding the grass, and then the motor vehicle is, if the motor vehicle is inoperable for any reason for a period in excess of 5 days. According to our zoning ordinances, if it's in the side yard, it's okay for 30
Well,
days. So
what
there's,
I'm saying is this, why don't we just, here's how I can fix that, okay, as far as the grass. As soon as I just bring it back up, because it just went dead
so
on me.
if we can clear up those
On the grass issue, what I can do is, what section was that again? I just read.
so the grass.
Oh, I see it. It's 8, okay?
Don't
The
they
maximum growing height of weeds grass shall be as specified in
the
our
zoning ordinance.
zoning ordinance.
And then you
Eight
should,
inches.
on page 4, the motor vehicle inoperability, if you remove the 5 days and make it as specified in our zoning ordinance.
Isn't the zoning ordinance with an unlicensed car, that's not 30 days, is it?
But this is assuming that the vehicle is licensed. If it's inoperable, I actually feel that 30 days is probably too long, but there is an inconsistency there. And so if we say that we're doing it as it, in conjunction with the zoning ordinance, we're not, saying two different things.
I can just put,
Sometimes, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt Fred, but sometimes you can't even get your car into a shop within 5 days if something's wrong to
That's
it.
correct.
You know.
That is
They
correct.
might have to sit there for 5 days or 3 days or whatever till they can tow it away, whatever. I believe, like Andrew said, that,
Maybe we could put something in there for
zoning.
license. If they're license plate on there, they can stay longer than ones that aren't.
It's
That-
spelled out in the zoning ordinance, and
That's in
so
the
if
zoning.
we just say
Yep.
in accordance with the zoning ordinance,
Okay.
there's no discrepancy there.
I'll just put, the motor vehicle is inoperative for any reason for a period, for a period as specified in the zoning ordinance.
Yep.
Okay?
Now, how are we gonna address the
grass was 8
parking on the
inches.
grass?
And then let's go back before we do that. Let's go back to 2(3), Roman numeral 3. Recreational vehicles, are you okay with that?
I just want to make sure nobody feels like they have to take their swings out and their benches out.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what the intention was, and I don't think a little kid's bike. I mean, I think that honestly, if you left that second, sentence that says household furniture designated for indoor use, that's the most important part of that entire paragraph.
Yep.
Well, so you want me to take out the first sentence altogether?
Yeah, because I think I don't see,
I-
I saw somebody's trampoline in what would be considered their front yard because they are on a corner lot. So does that also mean that a trampoline is a toy and it should be removed from
I would
there?
imagine, I
because-
wouldn't want a trampoline
I
in the
mean,
front yard.
I personally don't want a
Well,
trampoline
but,
in my
but
front
it's
yard
more
either,
than just,
but,
but that's also a safety concern, okay?
right.
Beyond the look of it, I really don't want to have somebody's trampoline in the front yard that anybody could just, hop on it as they're walking down the street.
Right.
That creates, so I'm not
That's
sure
for-
that I
but that-
necessarily would recommend removing that entire sentence. Now, if you want to make some revisions to that,
If we took out that outdoor furniture thing so people don't have to take out their,
well, I can take out recreational equipment Why don't I just take out including, why don't I just take out this? Recreational equipment shall not be placed or located in any front yard. I'm taking out including but not limited to bicycles, toys, and outdoor furniture.
Yeah, because I wouldn't call furniture recreational equipment.
Yeah. So why don't I just put recreational equipment shall not be placed or located? And by that, I'm really referring to like, I don't want you having a trampoline out in your front yard. I don't want that, those sorts of recreational equipment. Would that be acceptable?
I'm comfortable with that. If-
Okay.
Now, that's on a permanent basis. Let's say you got aunts, uncles, everybody and their cousin over for whatever, and you want to have badminton in the front yard for somebody, and you want to have,
Well, this is shall not be located in front yard for longer than 2 days.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's too.
It doesn't say you can never have it.
right.
It just says 2 days.
Right, that's what I want to specify.
Right. I didn't take that out.
And again, I apologize for putting you on the spot, Fred.
No, don't worry about it. It's, one of the problems is that I drafted this in April, if I remember correctly. So that's why it's not something I did just recently, so I'm having to kind of refresh my memory as we go through. But I have no problem. What I'll do is I'll make the change. What I'll do is I'll make the change to Roman numeral 3 by striking that portion. And then 8, I will add as specified in the zoning ordinance. And under 14.2, inoperative for any reason for a period as specified in the zoning ordinance.
Well, I would,
Anything else?
I'm good.
Did anybody want to make any changes
Well,
relative to
the
front
vehicle
yard
park
parking?
on a approved hard surface, how are we gonna address that? There's not enough parking right now for
Well-
some of these homes. The new
Here-
homes
here-
are fine, but the established homes, I really don't think we should pick on them.
What if
I-
they
I
did
don't-
approved hard surfaces, and if they needed to put the additional hard surface, like somebody else mentioned, like, and it's the landlord's issue, that they could do that? I mean,
I think that Fred was right, that you don't want to start telling people they can park their cars in their front yards.
or some people and not others, and get
Yeah.
a slippery slope.
So, 2 houses down the road here, and Mr. Stow's old house, where they do, but they may not. Neil Remaculus owns the one, and the other one, I don't think he does. Where the lady died in the little white house, there's only room for 1 car. And they can't, they have 2 vehicles, so they're parking 1 there and 1 in the front yard.
So I guess what
And
I'm
they
saying
can't
is,
park on M50.
if they have to park in their front yard, that's fine. It needs, make that an approved hard surface by bringing in gravel or whatever, and then now it looks like it's supposed to be parked there and not just, hey, I'm just gonna pull up on the grass. And that's what people will see as they drive by. Hey, okay, it's a reasonable, common sense parking place.
Why
So
don't I
some of the newer homes
put,
are-
here's what I'm suggesting, Tim. On that section where we talk about the parking, okay, that is 14, Roman numeral 2,
3.
2, 3.
2. I'm gonna put at the end of that the following language. Except on an approved hard surface. Does that take care of your problem? I don't know whether that is acceptable to everybody else, but,
Can you say that again, please?
well, I'm just putting it, front yard shall not be used for the parking of motor vehicles except on an approved hard surface.
Well, I think that's what 3 already says.
Yeah, just above it.
Well,
think
that
you're-
one says shall not be parked, a motor vehicle is not,
Oh,
but it doesn't see, the first, part 2 there, Roman numeral 2 says parking, front yard shall not be used for the parking of motor vehicles. It doesn't accept that it's on an approved hard surface. And all I'm just saying is I'll put that in as an exception,
Okay.
if that makes sense to you.
Fred,
when? Okay.
just a question. Not too long ago, the Zoning Board of Appeals turned down Farm Bureau. who was going to put in a hard surface cement parking lot for 3 cars in his front,
Right.
handicap and 2 other ones, and they turned him down.
Well, I understand, and it's in violation of,
Farm Bureau,
the
on
site
Tecumseh.
plan.
Who turned it down?
Zoning Board of Appeals,
Because it's a front yard.
yes.
Now, I would say, the only thing that I would say, if you wanted to make a distinction, is just saying that, yeah, on residential properties. I mean, if you wanted to say that, but, because I do think that there's a difference between commercial properties and residential properties, but, you know what? Don't vote on this tonight, okay?
The Farm Bureau also is a rental upstairs. It's business downstairs and the house is a rental upstairs.
Yeah, except we wouldn't let them park anything because I mean, that was the thing. I mean,
Right.
and,
Mr. Carner was very upset,
yep, and he's right about that.
and I think, Mr. Burdine, you were on that zoning board
Yes.
at the time and voted against it.
I don't think that we should vote on this tonight. I think we should change the.
Well, I think you're gonna have to think about that. I mean, you can vote on this tonight, but I'm just saying that if we're going to allow parking in the front yard, we better think about that. I mean, I really do, because Dave, I'm glad you brought that up, because when you said, I do remember that. I remember that was a real issue for us, because we did not want to allow that commercial enterprise to allow parking in their front yard. In fact, we turned it down.
They also turned down Cover Funeral Home, Mr. Cover, from parking in the front yard.
And Mr. Culver was on the zoning board also of appeals.
There was a few years ago, there was a grocery store that wanted to be out on Tecumseh Street, but they wanted the parking in the front, and it was turned down, so, because they had parked behind.
How many houses are we talking about where this is an issue?
Maybe 3 or 4.
But how do you?
Just that I've seen. I haven't talked with them yet.
How
I
many
just
houses?
been walking by.
My next door neighbor, that's, one, for example, so
They don't have any place to park,
they got,
but they can park on the
few
street.
Yeah, they
vehicles.
do. You're
Well, I
right,
mean,
on
if they
Oak
do
Street.
park on the street, but I tell you, they park in their grass
They park
all
in
the
their
time.
grass, yes, they do.
And I
on
know you
Oak
walk
Street.
by and you see it,
Yes.
I mean, it's every day.
Very good.
I mean,
And they have
sometimes
3 or
you
4
start making
vehicles
exceptions
also.
and it's a problem. And you do have to consider how the interplay between this and the zoning regulations are.
Right.
Because this is compliant with our zoning regulations, this language.
Well, I would move forward and move that we table this, pending a little more information and chances for all of us to look around the village and see, and come back and tighten something up, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do, tighten this up and bring something that we all can agree upon.
I will say, Fred, I do like a lot of what's in there. I think it makes it tighten down a little bit.
So
The
we're gonna need a
idea.
motion to table this, or are we just all in agreement? What's council's pleasure here? Come back at a later date when.
I don't think we need.
Well, I'll just come back at the next meeting.
I think we can table it till the
Yeah,
next
we just
meeting.
table it.
Meeting.
Okay.
I would prefer that. I mean, it's already been
Yeah.
4 months since I drafted this. I think we need to, so I am going to make the changes we talked about already. So I took out that section on front yards, and then we agreed on that. We agreed on 8. Shall be as specified. Agreed on that. And then I have the language on 14I2. In excess of the period okay. Did you want to, excess of the time permitted in the village zoning ordinance, okay. Those have been changed. I will email that to you, but then you can tell me what you want to do with the parking in the front yard. I think that's something you're gonna have to give some thought to.
I don't think we should change that.
I don't think we should
Not for the
either.
few exceptions.
Well, these are your options. You can vote on this tonight with the changes I've already made. You can table this, you can vote on it as presented, you can do a number of things, but that's up to you to decide what you want to do.
I suggest we table it so we can all go around in the neighborhoods and check it out, because,
Well, we need a motion one way or the other, whatever you want to do, so.
is there a motion to table it, or
You know what?
I'll make the
With-
motion to table?
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion to table it for a later date.
I thought Brian already did it.
Okay. Is
I
there-
don't think
is there a
anybody
motion?
made a motion.
Nobody made the motion.
We were just talking about it.
I would,
Is-
Tim's made a motion, so.
Tim can't make a motion.
Oh, that's right, he can. I'm gonna make a motion
Well,
that.
wait, is anybody seconding that motion?
He
Tim
can't make a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, okay, go ahead. I didn't,
I thought Brian made a motion earlier to take into.
Yeah.
He made a recommendation.
I made a recommendation.
Recommendation, okay.
Would you want to make a motion, Brian, to table it for later?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna make the motion then that with the changes that were discussed tonight and that Fred already made, that we approve ordinance number 01-2019 to amend the blight regulations.
and that would not include, just so that, for clarity, that would not include any changes to the front yard parking, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to the amendments to the zoning ordinance of, where are we at here now?
It's moved in second to adopt the amendments to Article 2 blight
Yes.
as with the changes that had been discussed and recommended by council,
That's just what I
By-
was thinking.
by council. In the particular sections, which were section 2, 3, and section 8, and section 14,
So were those
1.
sections entered into the motion, or just?
Yeah, I think you should put those,
All right,
as,
then do it again, so
okay.
the recorder picks it up.
as adopting the ordinance with the amendments as proposed to sections 2, and then it would be Roman numeral 3. And section 8 and section 14, Roman numeral 1, 3.
2.
1, 2, I'm sorry, 1, 2, you're right. Those are the three sections that I've made the changes to.
Roman numeral 1 and 2?
No, Roman numeral It's 14, Roman numeral, small I, Roman numeral 1, and then bracket 2.
Okay, right, okay, very good.
And that was bracket 1 too, also, right?
I don't think that I made a change to bracket 1. Not licensed for use upon the public highways of
That
the,
was,
No,
no.
Okay.
I didn't change that.
it's two.
How about number 3?
Nope.
Motor vehicles not parked on an approved hard surface.
That was just left as is.
I'm gonna email this to everybody right now. Okay, you've all got a copy of, I just emailed you a copy of the amended language.
Thank you, sir.
So Shirley, you want to read it, or we're just going to vote on
We're
it?
just gonna vote on it because that's
Okay.
too
Yep.
detailed right at the moment.
Yep.
And he's already faxed it to us, so we'll go into the, or emailed it to us, so we'll
Gotcha.
pick it up from that. Okay,
Trustee McClendon,
Yes.
Trustee Reeves,
Yes.
Trustee Horky,
Yes.
Trustee Schroeder,
Yes.
Trustee Polito,
Yes.
Trustee Hickey,
Yes.
President Radine.
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Now we go to resolution number 2019-19, a resolution to establish a policy for encouraging residential development.
This is a resolution of council members that you sent back to Mr. Lucas to reword everything, and you've gotten a copy of that to go over.
You guys had asked me to come up with a, rather than to have an agreement specific to any one developer, you asked me to come up with a policy that would be, that any developer could take advantage of, and this is what I drafted. So if there's any questions, let me know.
So I'd like to read this. This resolution number 2019-19 is a resolution that encourages residential growth in the village. This is the third year for this productive development agreement. At a prior meeting, some questions arose from council discussion. Mr. Lucas took the suggestions, concerns that came out of the discussion and redrafted the resolution. The new draft basically changes from Solvay development agreement to a broad agreement for all developers. The agreement lists promote growth in the area for marketing and advertising. Remember, this only pertains to the water fee of $912, so we're asking that the new developers don't pay $912. I do have a problem with that. So, is there any discussion with anybody who'd
What's
like
your
to make the motion, then we discuss it, or do you want to just discuss it and then make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-19, a resolution to establish a policy for encouraging residential development.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded And then now we're having discussion on the motion.
Yep, I made the motion, so I get to speak first
you
to
do.
the motion. And I just want to remind council that this forgiving the water hookup fee, our biggest debt in related to our water and sewer is actually our sewer. And remember that this does actually not ask for us to forgive any sort of sewer hookup fees whatsoever. So all of the debt that we have for the sewer, that piece of it, that portion of it, actually still will go to us. The only thing that's going to be be forgiven is the water part. And if you guys remember, according to our budgeting workshops, you can't use water money for sewer or sewer for water. Sewer is sewer and water is water, and that's just the way the law works. So.
Anybody else or have anything to say, pro or con? Discussion?
I just want to say that I think this is a really thoughtful piece. I think Fred did exactly what we asked him to do at the prior meeting, and I would have seconded, but you beat me to it.
Yes, thanks, Fred.
And anybody else, pro or con? Discussion. I just don't think that we should give millionaire people homes that are coming in and establishing Dundee, they're building the homes. They're going to advertise on 75, 23, 94, whether we give them this $912 rebate.
Tim, please be careful that when you're stating these things, that you're stating facts that you know about people, and you're not doing anything that could be perceived as liable. Because I just want to make sure that it is said that sometimes your comments related to people's personal well-being or their abilities are not representative of this council, and they are your personal opinions. And the last time that this was discussed, you weren't even referring to the same person who was asking, the same developer who was asking for this incentive.
And I just want to say that the individual developer that we're all referring to is not mentioned in here by name. This is open to any developer. This is for any developer who wants to come in, purchase land, and develop within the village.
And let me point out one other thing, and this is, I think, the key to this. The key to this is not that we're giving them and just saying, you get to keep that money. They don't get to keep the money. We're requiring that those monies that they're saving be expended in advertising for that
And
development.
there's checks and balances too. I mean,
Pardon?
There's checks and balances
Right.
showing that they're doing that.
Right,
That's
and
written
we,
in your agreement.
that's the purpose of doing that, is that by doing that, we can get them to expend more money on advertising, which brings a greater likelihood that people will come in and actually purchase, which will increase
Right.
the number of rooftops in the community.
I disagree. I think they're going to
That's
advertise
fine.
regardless.
Well,
And I don't think we should set specifics on there. This is my opinion on this.
And that's
through
fine.
talking with the people in the town.
I understand it, but I just wanted to make sure that people understand that they don't get to put this money in their pocket. The money has to be spent in a specific manner. It does not allow them, and, because I don't want anybody walking away thinking that whatever money they just get to keep and apply.
Right.
They have to take that money and spend it in a specific manner. So, and you, listen, I'm not telling you
In a
that
sense,
you're.
we're giving them free advertisement then, in a sense.
Well, I understand that. And again, I'm not suggesting to you that you don't have a right to disagree with it. I just wanted to make sure that people, I am not advocating for or against this policy. All I'm indicating is that, because that's not my decision to make anyways. I never make those decisions. All I'm here to do is to make sure that people understand that this is not money that is just going directly to any builder, whoever it is. It is, that money is required to be spent in a specific manner.
I'm clear on it, Fred.
No, I know you are. I just wanted
Mr.
the
Brookline is
members of the
entitled to his
public
point.
to
I
understand.
call the question, unless there's any further discussion.
There's a motion on the floor, and Shirley, would you please read it?
It was moved by trustee Hickey, supported by trustee Reeves, to adopt a resolution 2019-19, a resolution to establish a policy for encouraging residential development. Trustee Reeves?
Yes.
Trustee Horky?
Yes.
Trustee Schroeder,
Yes.
Trustee Polito?
Yes.
Trustee Hickey?
Yes.
Trustee McClendon?
Yes.
President Bodine?
No.
Motion's carried.
And you already discussed the fact that we've taken the other resolution off
Yes,
for
sir.
tonight? Okay,
Yes, we did.
all right.
So now we're at the point, old business. Old business 9A, contract for art coordination services.
On your summary, I have Teresa Coleman on there, who's been heading up this along with the committee, but she is unable to make it tonight, and Terry Potts from the DDA is with us.
Yeah, and when we put together an art committee, we went into this thinking that we had a pretty good idea of what we wanted to do, bringing in sculptures and art, art for Dundee. We quickly found out that there was a lot more to it than what we really originally had thought, and realized that we were in for learning lessons. So we had a couple people that came in and explained it to us. I'd like to introduce to you Crystal Scott, who is a marketing person and also does art. And she's from the Chelsea area. She handles the artwork up in Chelsea, the sculpture. She's going to explain a little bit about what she has here today, what she's planning on doing. We decided to hire her. She will explain what is under the contract. She'll explain what her ideas are, and she also has a few items that she'd like to hand out to you as well.
Hi,
Okay.
thank you, excuse me. Excuse me, I'm recovering from a sickness, so probably to the relief of most people in this room, I won't be talking too much. My name is Crystal Scott. I'm a visual arts coordinator. If I may approach, I brought some documents. Does anybody object?
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Hi. Thanks, Crystal. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me that, and thank you for having me here. Again, my name is Crystal Scott, I'm visual arts coordinator. I won't talk about myself too long, but I do have over a decade of fine arts education that was wrapped up with a master's concentration in sculpture. I am newly, actually last year, Chelsea Area Festivals Events, which is the brochure I handed you, brought me on board as their visual arts coordinator. So now I'm in charge of the sculpture walk there in Chelsea. It was the 10th year. And also as well as the art market. So I don't know if it'd be worth anybody's time for me to read this document word for word, but I did try to overview the project, and forgive me, I'm not sure how up to speed any of you are on this project, or what may come as a surprise. But I was approached by Miss Lindsay Cross several months back about coming on board to assist. As Mr. Potts said, it's kind of a loaded, it's a loaded gun as far as if you're purchasing sculpture for a permanent collection, or if it's a yearly exhibition, which we have in Chelsea, where all the sculptures are available for purchase. And we have business sponsors that sponsor the pads. And I'm talking for Chelsea because this is in the future, and it's very uncertain right now, but I have a basic overview. So what we do in Chelsea is just something that we could grow into here in Dundee. I think as of right now, there's a proposed 5 sculpture pad locations to be poured throughout the village. And what I will do this first year, since the timeline, we were hoping to have some art pieces installed possibly for the Pumpkin Fest. It could be a kickoff in coordination with the festival for the sculpture exhibition. I'm just temporarily dubbing it a village sculpture. That's just a title I tossed out there, and I will be working with the sculpture committee, the Dundee Sculpture Committee. They will be approving selections, they will be kind of voting on my decisions, so it's not, I'm not barging in and doing anything without the approval of this Dundee committee, to be clear about that. If the contract is signed and deposit acquired promptly, then I can begin work, and I can absolutely get sculptures installed within the last 2 weeks of September. If the pads are prepped and ready, we can get those pieces in, and they will be up, ready, and looking beautiful for that large fall festival. And like I said, there's a lot here. I have a lot to talk about, but I don't plan on talking a lot right now, so please, I'd welcome any questions, any concerns. I'm more than willing to talk as much as you would like about any particular thing that you see in front of you. My proposed contract is the last page. It's pretty basic. I'm by no means a legal person, but I do try to cover both parties in a very basic sense. I'm very flexible with the terms there. The second page is just some pictures that I have from this past year, the success we had in Chelsea. The artist reception was a wonderful turnout. The guided tours, I'm offering to do 2 in my proposed costs, a docent guided tour of the sculptures, which is people really enjoy hearing. I encourage artists to attend so they can talk about the work. I also communicate heavily with the artists, so I can talk a lot about each piece as well, because it's hard to get artists there, but I try my best. And there's a little map there of the Chelsea exhibition, and it's also the 2 pictures on the bottom are to show that we have a really great, strong relationship with the city of Chelsea. The workers there, it's kind of an in-kind sponsorship. They're great community partners. In return, we always give them credits on the brochures. You'll see there's lots of marketing opportunities for the DDA board, the city of Chelsea, any businesses that step in to sponsor. So there's lots of potential growth here, not just for art, but for marketing, for encouraging tourism and local businesses. It can go many directions.
What's the council's pleasure on this? Any questions?
Let me remind the council that this was voted on in the budget hearing, so it's already been approved, the
Right.
amount.
So really quickly, you can see at the very bottom of the front page of the village sculpture handout, we approved a $10,000 budget for this activity, and it's coming in under budget at this point, which is a great thing. And you've been amazing helping us walk through this, and we
Thank you.
appreciate it. I was a representative for the council on the committee. So, I mean, they're within the guidelines of everything. I think it's great. We appreciate the help because we couldn't handle it, right? And so I would move that we accept the contract.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I'd like to add that we did mark, Crystal and I met earlier this evening, and we walked around, we marked 5 places that we're gonna be putting the artwork. It's gonna be in each one of the green spaces, one in the library, in front of the library in that raised pad area. It will require one of the plants, one, maybe 2 of the plants.
The
to be-
ornamental grass bushes.
And I did ask the township supervisor today, and she was gonna touch base with the library. And she didn't see any problem with it, as long as you could still landscape around the pad. So she thought it looked great.
I actually do encourage landscaping around the sculpture pads. Not only is it very scenic and beautiful, but as explaining to Terry, it helps keep people off of the sculptures and pad because they see a garden, they don't necessarily tromp through it. So it's just a great idea to encourage that whenever possible.
So where else do you have these sculptures besides Chelsea? Do you have them in Tecumseh or?
No, so I'm fairly new to the game. My biggest competition right now is Midwest Sculpture Initiative, ran by Ken Thompson, who I think you guys reached out to, and he's got kind of a monopoly on the sculpture curation in the tri-state area. So as of right now, Chelsea is my starting point. I have experience beyond that, but not as the actual coordinator, the person in charge. This is a new ground to me, but I do have experience relevant, I should say.
We also found out that if we were to go to Midwest, that it would have been a lot more expensive for us. We would have blown the $10,000 probably on just one piece.
Now, Terry, what about having our school, our high school artist? And do we still have
Well, our
shop?
high school doesn't have that capability.
We discussed this a little bit. We don't have the capacity to do this kind of sculpting in any degree. This is way beyond anything that a high school student could do. This is done at university level and beyond. and trying to acquire these kind of pieces, and yeah, it just.
These are professional artists.
Very much professional. Actually, I don't even have many students, university students, graduate students. It's above that.
But I understand,
Mhm.
and Dundee is still a farming community, and there's only very few people that make 80 to 100,000. And I'm not for sure that we're Ann Arbor or Tecumseh, because we don't have a fine arts museum or
We plan on doing something a little bit different than like what Tecumseh's doing and so forth. We put a lot of thought into it. Crystal and I discussed it today. Crystal's working very hard at trying to coordinate the artwork to our community, the history of our community. That's probably the most important thing that she's doing right now. And we have a couple ideas that we've shared. As far as some of the costs goes, I already had Teresa type me up some letters on the letterhead. I will be visiting different businesses here in town, different people here in town, to try to get them to help with paying part of the cost. We have a $750 stipend fee, which probably would be able to come out of the $10,000 funds. I think you had figured that.
Yep, it's figured. The artist stipends are figured in the budget.
Yeah.
And I would like to add to your comment, because I am in general very empathetic to everyone I work with, especially in regards to the community, because ultimately this is to benefit the community. It's not to put like Dundee on the map of the United States as a place you must see collectors coming from California. It's not that kind of scale. It's something that, it's a starting point for culture. To, as I heard the discussion earlier, to help beautify the area and to help encourage locals and people from the surrounding areas to make it a point to come into downtown Dundee and see how actually stunning it is. And so you can look at art as an adornment. What I would love to, if I'm hired on future years, is to maybe have a spot near the school that is for the students, either a collaboration of students or involve the schools, because I think community partnerships of all kinds are very, very important. That's what strengthens a community. So I agree with you 100%, and I just want to be clear that that's...
Sure. And also Crystal just had an art fair in, I believe that's what you call it.
The Sound and Sights Festival in Chelsea, curated, excuse me, my throat, the art market, which is that what you mean? Though?
Right.
Yeah.
Again, you had different, it wasn't all the sculptures and things, it was artwork.
I'm just saying that my constituents are telling me that we're not ready for this yet. For what I'm hearing, we're still a farming community here.
I've talked to a lot of people. I know quite a few people in this town. I've been here for 25 years. I've been able to get a large surrounding of people. I was in business here in town. I had met a lot of the people. A lot of the people worked for me, and even in Monroe and so forth. I've heard nothing but good, and people excited about this project. It's time for us to progress. And if we're going to be a growing community, we need to progress. And we can't do that if we just sit here and do nothing.
And there's actually a motion on the floor, and I'd like to call the question. Brian made the motion, I seconded it already, and so I'd like to call the question.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor, Shirley.
What's that?
There's a motion on the floor, and been seconded.
Thank you. Who made the motion?
Brian did, and then I seconded it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that.
It was to approve the contract.
Okay. Did you put the amount in?
No, $4,000.
Okay. It was moved by trustee Schroeder, supported by trustee Hickey, to enter into a contract with Crystal Scott for visual arts coordination services in the amount of $4,000. Trustee Horky?
Yes.
Trustee Schroeder?
Yes.
Trustee Polito?
Yes.
Trustee Hickey?
Yes.
Trustee McClendon?
Yes.
Trustee Reeves?
Yes.
President Devine?
No.
Motion is carried.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, thank you. Terry, before you sit down, Shirley had a question. I thought you told me earlier there was going to be a spot at the Old Mill, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm gonna put a flag up tomorrow.
Okay.
It's getting ready to rain and everything.
Do we have a choice of where you're putting it?
Well, yeah, definitely. You'll be there tomorrow?
No,
No? Okay.
you'll have to call me and make an appointment. I might be in and out of there tomorrow, but you'd have to make an appointment.
Can I just suggest this? Why don't you since you want one over there, and it's probably okay with Shirley, but remember we talked about let me have Nick work out the location with Shirley.
Yeah, that's fine.
And it'll save a lot of trouble.
Now, we weren't gonna put that up this year. We wanted to pour a pad for this year,
Okay.
and then we'll put a sculpture in there, next year. One there, and I have one other spot I'm gonna check on,
I
which
did
is,
have another question. Now, these sculptures are changed every year?
they are up for a portion of 1 year. They're up for sale. They are changed. And, unless we decide that we wanna buy one of the sculptures. If we decide to buy it, we can leave it where it is, or we could find a spot where we can develop a sculpture walk. That's something that the committee has been discussing. We haven't got a firm plan on that yet. The other place that I want to check on is I have to talk to the Christmas shop, Silver Bells, that space that they own between their building and the jerky spot, see if they would like to have a sculpture put up in that area. We'll pay for the pad, we'll pour the pad, and we'll take care of the stipend fee. And then also, the brochures that you have in front of you, they were developed by Crystal, and she will be developing something like that for us. That's another thing that I am going to be looking for donations to take care of the printing costs on that, so that we don't have to have any additional monies. Oh, you did include it in the number?
Yeah, and I would like to just jump in and say, there's enough left in the budget to include a 6th sculpture by the mill if it's something that's highly desirable. It's just, I left a little room in the budget in case there was interest in purchasing to start a permanent collection owned by the city. So there's a little bit of fluff money there for that reason. But if you would like an additional sculpture, there is still funding left in the proposed budget to allow a 6th sculpture.
It would be nice if we could put something up
Would
for
you
them.
name the areas that you say you've got 5 spots? Would you
Wait.
name those 5 spots?
Was the school one of them?
No, we'll do something else different there. We thought about the school, we liked that idea, but there was a couple of issues that came up with that. One was, how would liability be handled in that area? Is that, is that gonna be the village liability, or is it gonna be under the school board?
Well, now,
And then also, right now, it's not in a high-traffic area. For the kids it is, and the band, but for people coming into town, we want to try to get the high-traffic areas first.
but you're putting it in private property too, right, at Silver Bells?
We have to have their approval. We'd have to have their approval, and it can't be put on the boulevard on M50, because that would come under MDOT, and it creates a new whole
So you're,
Terry, can you answer for Shirley what the 5 spots you picked
Yeah.
were?
Okay, the first one is in the green space here beside Bricktown. And we have landscaping that goes around there. It's immediately in front of the landscaping, get closest to the corner of Bricktown. Now, in that area, there's a flag mark there. The sculpture would go in there, and then around the sculpture, we would highly suggest putting in landscaping around it, a flower bed around it, which I figured we could probably talk with Todd and see what he can do in that area. And that's something that we want to do in each one of the sculptures. We want to have some type of landscaping around it. The other one is in front of the library. The library has a raised flower bed and trees and so forth in there. That's where another one is going to go. The other one's going to be in the other green space where we have the block parties. And it's going to be, if you're facing the carriage stone, It's going to be to the left of the carriage stone. That is something that Crystal has a couple ideas. She knows a couple sculptors that have something that could go along with that. Like one is cowboy. Is it cowboy boots or just boots?
Horse head.
Oh yeah, the horse head. Yeah, she's going to try to get a horse head put in there, so that it would kind of tie into the idea of the carriage stones. So there's a tie-in right there. And then the other one being the triangle, right beside the Christmas tree, between the Christmas tree and the edge of the sidewalk. We've got it right in the middle. The final one that we had of the 5 was you go down the hill, down to the gazebo, right in the middle of the picnic tables is the spot there. That one is a possibility, something that she's hoping for is a mermaid, something to go along with. It's a mermaid type sculpture that can go along with the water, the river and the water, and be a nice back. The dam in the old mill would be a nice back set for that. And then if she says we can do a 6th one, we can do that this year then at the old mill. But I had thought to the north end, or I'm sorry, the south of the bicycle racks or bicycle pump station, and there by the flagpole in that area. I don't know if you want that or, but whatever you would like to have, because you know the old mill better than I do.
I think that we can actually connect Shirley to the committee, because I don't think that we need to get probably too lost in the details since we have a committee working on this.
Right.
So if we could just, Brian requests that the committee make sure that they're working with Shirley on the old mill portion of it.
Absolutely, and if anybody on the village council would like to join in the meetings, by all means. They're not private meetings, everybody's welcome.
Yeah.
I just would like to see some high school students involved in it.
I'm sure that at some point there's something that we can do that work towards that. But we're at the beginning stages right now. We need to get started. We need to get our feet planted and do this right. We don't want it to be any type of half-done project. We want to do it right. That's why we're hiring Crystal. And Crystal has a lot of knowledge. She has a lot of knowledge on putting things together. So she will come up with something at some point in time. She's willing to do what we want want her to do. Okay?
Thank you,
All
Terry.
right, thank you, both of you.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.
Crystal.
Thank you, Crystal.
Next is number 10, upcoming training opportunities, everybody.
No, we have to do 9B, professional services with Spicer. If the council remembers, this is another one that was okayed in the budget, and we discussed this extensively, and we attached a copy of their contract to move forward with this.
What's the council's pleasure on this one, 9B? We're going to put an amount on it, or?
There is an amount.
Yeah. I move that we accept the proposal for the master plan brought to us by Spicer Group in an amount not to exceed $7,000.
Second.
There's been a motion on the floor by Andrew Hickey and supported by Mr. Polito to have the letter of agreement of professional services with Spicer for the master plan review. Roll call, please. Or is there any discussion on it first? Everybody's good? Okay.
It was moved by trustee Hickey, supported by trustee Polito, to enter into an agreement with the Spicer Group for professional services and updating the master plan in the amount not to exceed $7,000. Trustee Schroeder,
Yes.
trustee Polito,
Yes.
trustee Hickey,
Yes.
trustee McClendon,
Yes.
trustee Reeves,
Yes.
trustee Horky,
Yes.
President Burdine.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Now we have the Stop the Bleeding training. That's just for information on first only. This is number 10A. Is there any questions on that? Everybody's read it and well aware of it.
And it,
Would you like to say something?
it was well attended yesterday by front office staff, police, everybody. It was very informational, good training.
Okay. Village manager comments, number 11.
Thank you. Just have a couple things. McBride Street is, all the underground utilities are done. The road building or subgrade is being completed in the next few days by Salenbean Construction. And then we will be waiting for the curb and gutter and sidewalk people to move in. We are months ahead of schedule on McBride Street. So hopefully the curb company can get in here quicker than they originally anticipated, so we can get moved on with this. And then the pavement, once that gets done, the pavement will start. We're in the process of doing sidewalks, and that will be completed before school starts. That's all I have. Oh, wait, I got a couple more. Wait a minute. Yeah, I better tell you this. This was new. Just we have a groundbreaking at Chrysler, and that's Thursday at 2 p.m.
This is for their extra line that they're putting in.
Yes, and their building. And Michael Roach was our intern for engineering, and today was his last day.
Oh.
He did an excellent, excellent job.
And is he going back to school or?
He starts Monday, University of Toledo. He was a good addition to the staff, did a lot of work.
You say that was 2 p.m., Dave?
Yes, sir, 2 p.m. at Chrysler.
All right.
Now I'm done.
Chief Garbo, do you have anything to say on the police department?
Good afternoon. Just a couple updates. I know most of you read the paper, see everything that's going on, but quick update. August 8th, we had our froyo with the Popo, attended by over 200. So I appreciate everyone who came out and everyone in the community. It was well attended, and we appreciate it. This past Saturday, August 17th, we had our Eddie the Eagle costume with the NRA. It was out at Cabela's. So we had an officer with that, and that was attended very well. So we appreciate Wayne Blank and what he did to actually make that happen. And then you know about Stop the Bleed, but I do want to give a shout out to Monroe County authorities, Ambulance Authority to Jeff Hayward and his group for actually coming in and doing the educational part. I know the schools are on his agenda and you're on deck, so I could tell you that's coming, but it's excellent training. And it's good in attendance. If any of you can attend, I would recommend you do it. And then we're right now ramping up our Drive Sober, Get Pulled Over, and our Operation Blue Light all the way through September 3rd. So just want to let everybody know about that. Thank you.
Is there
Yes.
any questions for Chief Garbo?
No. All right.
I have some from my constituents. Could you tell us again why our police are down there on Cone Road and 23? It's been brought to my attention that our offices are sitting down on Cone Road entrance heading south.
They're not doing that. I can tell you that. I can assure you
Well, they
that.
have pictures.
So if, we'll
They
have them
have
stop by
pictures
my
of them.
office and I'll address it. Okay? So.
And I just wanted to know, you don't want to
Just-
answer
no,
why they're out
I
there?
said have them stop by the office, I'll explain it. So bring the pictures, I'd appreciate it. Because if they are, I'll address it.
Many people seen them.
I
Stop
call
by
to
the
order,
office.
asked, answered, please move on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
now we have council member comments. Mike?
If you're gonna start with me, okay, I just wanted to say that, one thing I wanna find out about is, the problem that we're having with the gutters, especially on Plank Street. I have, sent our manager Yule many pictures, and we've had people come out and put barricades over the holes. I sent them another one tonight, another picture tonight of another hole that popped up on Plank Street, and they're all coming up by the gutters and the grates. So I think this is something that we need to look into. That's been taken care of as far as I know of. More trash cans. I think we need more trash cans, especially by the old mill. There's not enough there. People are throwing garbage and stuff all over. The green space by Tom's over there, Tom's paint shop. I think we need to have that. No parking painted on the ground or striped on the ground.
It
because
is,
people over
Mike.
there-
It is now.
It is.
Okay,
And there's a sign also.
all right.
I think it's really recent, but it's there now.
Yeah, okay. And the laundromat, there's no handicap ramp there, ADA access at all, that's gotta be looked into. There's no ramp up there at all. That's all I got for now.
And Mike, there is sinkholes on Plank Street. When I was walking by, I seen our DPW out there addressing the problem, and they are popping up, like you said.
Yeah.
There's 2 or 3 spots there on Plank.
Yeah, every time I see something, I send a picture of Dave, and Dave sends a Nick or somebody out there, and I see them popped up, but I just think somebody needs to address all of them and start even looking at the other gutters. There's another one on Cass, was I sent you?
Cass and Monroe.
Cass and Monroe Street, the same way. And then right at the house where we had demolished by the church there, that whole intersection, something serious is going on there and gonna happen because the cracks coming from the sewers, from the sidewalk, all the way down to the sewers in the road itself is all cracked up. Everything is falling apart, and I think that's gonna have to be looked at because there's no telling if it's like, there could be a possible water leak underneath there causing stuff to come on. But I think that's something else that needs to be looked at too.
Now, is that real close to Pearl Street? Is it on the same side?
Right on the corner of Pearl.
Okay.
Yep, it's Pearl and Riley, right there on the corner where they come together. That whole thing is all cracked up. I've got pictures, I just didn't get a chance to send them to Manager Yule. I got so many more pictures to send Dave, he's probably tired of sending.
Our
Just send 'em.
our DPW does a great job, and they're right on the ball.
So that's all I got. I'm just been, as I walk the dogs, that's what I.
All right, thank you. Andrea?
I just wanted to say that Dave and Sarah Carl, who is our temp, who is, by the way, really great. She's doing a lot of good work. Probably doing so much more than she needs to do, but that's good. She's a very hard worker. But Dave and Sarah and I listened in on a demo for a program called iCompass. I just want to mention it because it'll probably come up in the future. It's a software product that makes the agendas and the way the agendas are submitted searchable. It files some of the paperwork for them. So like if you had an agenda, you can tell it to go live and it'll be online and then also be emailed to us. And so instead of getting like a PDF that was scanned in by the Xerox machine, it'll create a document for us all to look at for our council packets. But then it'll make all those items searchable. So if you ever wanted to go back in time and say, hey, did we ever talk about noxious weeds? You could type in noxious weeds, and anything that was entered into that system, any document would then be searchable. So it would kind of, it would make our lives a little bit easier. We wouldn't have to worry about it. It would have great search functionality on any computer. So I just wanted to mention that. I'm sure that Dave's going to bring the proposal after the company gets it to us. But if it's a really good program, and if you're interested, I know that Dave could connect you with the iCompass people so you could look firsthand. That's all I have.
Shirley, you have anything to say?
Ms. Denny? Well, I have a lot about the Smithsonian, so why don't you let me finish?
All right, all right. Denny?
Yes, thank you. So these lively discussions are good, and I really enjoy them. And the hour gets late. And I'm just wondering if council would ever consider an earlier start time. And there's nothing in the charter, so it can start whenever council decides. And it couldn't, this would not be a democratic process. So if we're inconvenient for one person, it's off the table. Just a thought. Thank you.
Jordan,
Nothing today.
Alina?
I would just want to touch base on what Dave was talking about with the Salem Bean crew over at McBride. We live kitty corner from there. My 1-year-old, we can't even go in the house when we get home from work and daycare without him wanting to just go observe and wave at the drivers of the big equipment. And so the other day, though, we saw Dave. Gosh, it had to be 6-ish o'clock. You were pulling up in your truck to what, they had called you about something. So I appreciate you being diligent in what you're doing with that. And then Shirley, I am going to send an email to help volunteer with the Smithsonian, so I kind of have limited timelines I can help with, so hopefully we can figure that out.
I gave you.
I know, I saw that, just to
Yes.
let you know, I'll be sending you an email.
So as I said, Annette, I have more, so if you want to pass them on to anyone.
Okay.
It's fine, because we have 6 weeks every day to fill.
Sure, I'll
So,
hopefully be able to
anyone
fill in a
let me-
couple
let
of them
me
for
know
you.
and have them get a hold of me, because the schedules are set up bi-weekly,
Okay.
so we can fill in if you want a week for the next 6 weeks, we can put you in a spot.
How about that? Okay, well,
Or twice a week, or 3 times a week.
in between my child and,
Whenever.
You can
work
bring your
schedule.
child with you.
Oh, boy.
So,
Brian?
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody that on the 3rd, school starts back up, and we have 16 buses that'll be on the road, so please just comply with their safety and just be patient as it's going to slow traffic down. Please understand, be patient, and think about the student safety when you see those buses and you think about trying to pass them or whatever. Just be safe for all, and we'll see you on the 3rd at the next meeting.
Okay, Shirley.
Okay, of course, everybody knows we have the Crossroads Traveling Exhibit coming here from with Smithsonian. We completely finalized our program. I passed out some information. There was some information in the newspapers. We just sent out our PSAs on it. We have a lot of openings for people to volunteer. It takes a lot of people to volunteer. Some people are worried about taking and volunteering because they don't feel they know enough to answer questions. We will have 1 to 2 staff people on site at all times. So if there's any questions that someone cannot answer, our staff will be able to answer it for them. As you can see, we have a very cross of activities. I do want to mention our first seminar that we will be having is on September the 8th, following our grand opening on Saturday. And the grand opening is going to be very big. We've got the Dundee Community Church is going to come over and do our children's activities for crafts. The Kiwanis is coming in and they're doing games. Andrea, what was the name of the ball?
Of the what?
The ball group is,
The ball group?
You s-
Oh, I don't know yet, but.
Okay. So anyway, we have bouncers over there. I need people to take and keep tabs on the bouncers. We have completed the walking tour for the downtown area, and if no one has seen the brochure, Grace Hudson did it. It's absolutely gorgeous. We have decided that after Smithsonian, we're going to make a few little tweaks on it, and it'll be a permanent a tour for the public, for anyone that wants to go on it. So that'll be something permanent that the museum is going to be offering after this. We've just completed the driving tour. We are going to be covering, it's going to be a bus tour that's going to be guided, and the school has been kind enough to, the handicap bus over there, we're going to be using for the tour. We're going to have one is going to be on the 7th. We're going to have 3 tours that day in the afternoon, and then on the 21st of September, it's going to encompass the whole area of Dundee, from the past all the way to the present and down into the future. Meg Highland has been working on the script for that tour, and it's really, really interesting, and I think everybody will enjoy it. So we're hoping people come out and do that. And as I'm going to back up to, I started talking about September 8th. That's Lift Our Eyes to the Future Forum. And it's going to be featured, our speakers that afternoon is going to be Joanna Ewell from this township, Dave from the village, and Tim Lake from the county. And what that forum is going to be is going to tell where are we going in the future for the village, the township, and the village. So we're hoping the public comes and we want interaction in these here, ask a lot of questions and see where we're going in the future. So that is our first week that we're going to be kicking this off. So we're real excited. The exhibits, I think we're just about ready to go. So if you don't have one, pick one up and take a look at everything that we got going. It's going to be a lot of fun. The school is heavily involved in it. Brian's put me in contact with lots of people, and the jazz band and the choir is going to be presenting one program. Our robotics team is going to be presenting a program on a Sunday, and also our fall sports program is going to be involved in a Sunday. So everybody, please watch the newspapers and online Facebooks, because I think it's going to be exciting, very exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All I got to say is that, Dave, do we still have enough money to start hole 19 to clean the island up here this fall?
Yeah, I advised council that before. That's as soon as Mr. Gwending gets everything in, he's going to get started.
Okay,
Start what?
and then
That's
hole
the-
19 over by the,
Probably in the
No.
1st of September, Mike.
because we had a lot of people at the fishing tournament. Yeah, and there was a lot of kids there and a lot of happy faces. And it was a very, very good turnout for that. And a lot of people suggested, and I said I'd try to find out when we're gonna get started. But go ahead and finish up on it.
Yes, we went and had, if you can believe it or not, we had kids from all sides of the river. We had people from 19 communities come down here for this exhibit, or for this exhibit, excuse me, for the fishing derby. And we had 132 registered kids. And then their families on top of that. It was absolutely really wonderful. And the kids just had a ball. And I want to thank Lisa Wayne. She went and conducted the Kiwanis. They conducted games for the kids over that day. And we had Mounts House, and we had musical entertainment, and it was absolutely, and we've had more people come up, especially the people from out of town. We had a gentleman from Sterling Heights who went and actually brought his grandchild down here from Sterling Heights, and he said he just could not believe that we did all this for free for this children.
Great.
And then they come back the next day to also. There was a lot
Yes.
of kids fishing the next day also.
It was wonderful, and I was really proud of the committee, Diane Steinman, everyone. They did a great job. It was a feather in Dundee's cap.
And like to thank the DPW. They did a good job. They always do a good job. And Main Street and Riley Street, that really looks nice, and it's a lot better than what it was. And I'm still trying to get a post office drop box out at Waterstrat Drive at the Athletico. What we need, Dave, we need a one-way sign and a do not enter sign for that side of town, and then we can move on with it. I've been talking with the postmaster, and he's gonna give me a letter. He just didn't get it drafted tonight, so maybe the next meeting we can get it on.
Chief's already contacted him. That's private property. We don't get involved in private property, and he's already talked to the postmaster about it.
And we've already got permission from private property, and they used to have one years ago at Food Town, and that was private property.
We do not post signs on private property.
Might be a good idea to start. We're putting statues and stuff
Can't
on
do
private property, and maybe I'll have to buy them myself. And if we could get the volunteerism to, from our DPW to put them up. This is something that was already
I
up.
don't think this is the platform to discuss that.
No. Well, we're gonna have to talk about it sometime, because we used to have a post office box drop, at Food Town before it was Kroger. And that's private property.
Well, you could do it if someone gives you permission.
Yes,
You don't have any authority to just go in and put anything on private.
right, we have the permission. We have the permission already. We just need the signs. Just a one-way do not enter and a one-way sign, and then we're ready to go.
You would need a signed document authorizing anybody, authorizing us to do that. So, I mean,
From the owner of the complex,
Not
not
the
the post
business owner.
office.
Right, from the marketplace.
property owner. Right.
From the owners of the
Yeah.
strip mall.
Yeah,
Do you know
Okay.
who the owners are?
yes, yes, we do.
Okay.
So that's all the holdup is then?
That'd be up to the council and whether we make the expense or not,
And
or if that's up to the private property. And I will add that it is non-enforceable.
it's for everybody in the village, and I'm sure that we could come together here as a council to spend a couple $100 for 2 signs for everybody in the village, since that side of town is growing fast, and when we do have a flood, and we can use the post drop box for that.
I put my flag up on my mailbox a lot, and they take my mail. I don't think that we need to expend this or cause an issue to put something up. I'm not.
A
I'm
couple
not saying
$100
it.
bucks isn't good for everybody in town, like the new assisted living and all the Bell Estates, and for the people like that, and the people that walk and ride bikes with their kids,
They
so
can-
they don't have to come over here, and they can have a 1 o'clock deadline to drop their mail. It'd be pretty nice. I mean, we're supposed to serve the people.
I think that they can put the flag on their mailbox up and call it a day.
Okay. All righty. So the next thing we have is citizens' comments. Are there any citizens out there tonight? Mr. Silly?
Well, I guess that's all I can say about this meeting.
It's been a long one.
Okay. Well, my wife did tell me, she said, make sure you don't go to jail. My first issue with this whole water thing is I paid $2,100 25 years ago to get water,
Sure.
tap-in fee.
Is he making comments
I
on
paid
that?
$6,500
This
to
is
tap
agenda
into the
item.
sewer
This is not one of these.
that is across the road, and I had to tap into the trailer park because I don't have sewer on my road. I listened to all this money being spent, but nobody talks about my road. For 32 years, it's been the way it's been. And when they ran water down Wells Road, every one of those people had to pay $20,000, and they didn't even want it. But they were forced to pay it. But you're gonna give these guys that build these homes, who wouldn't build a home here unless they knew they were gonna make money, just gonna waive their fee that's a measly $900. He's already gonna have that in on the price of the home. To me, that's BS. That just shows you that the little guy like me gets kicked off to the side, and the rich people come in and take over. Pretty soon he'll have all them homes built, and they'll say, oh, Howard, you can't have your salvage yard there no more. That's what'll happen. We just want to eliminate history in this town. I don't know why. And thank you, Shirley, for restoring history. I mean, it's just ridiculous. 5 years ago, I put a lemonade stand up for my grandson and his cousin, and they were selling lemonade. But guess what? That lasted an hour, because it got tore down, because a village official told the DPW guy, take the sign down. It's between the sidewalk and the road. So, here I am, I make them a stand, they make lemonade, and an hour later, we got nobody coming in because somebody took the sign down. We just seem to go backwards. Kids trying to make something. Dave, if you come to my shop, there is Hot Wheels in there, there is dolls, there's everything. Any customer comes to my shop, their kid will not leave without a smile. I pay my fair share. I mean, I don't have a sewer. I'm not allowed to have a septic tank, so I had to pay $6,500 to get my sewer over there. I just paid $9,800 to have the main gas line ran from my house, you know where I live, around the curve to the neighbors, because that's the only way they were gonna do it. I didn't get a break, but I wanted natural gas, but it was stopped at that point. And this just irks me, that you wanna give stuff away. You were right, Mr. McClendon, when you said, stop giving stuff away. You don't think that guy could afford $900 per house? I just don't get that. People pay $20,000. People, one family, when they ran down Wells Road. Didn't they run water out to your house? Where you live? Did it cost you? I don't know how much it cost you, but I know what it cost people down on Wells Road. And this guy is not gonna build houses here unless he thinks he can sell them. So that thing is saying that gonna take the money that he's saving and put it towards advertising, he ain't gonna advertise no more than what he would've. That to me is just, I don't get that. But we're gonna move on. And this thing about this Blythe thing, I don't see where it wouldn't have hurt if somebody would have got a little few people together and just drove around. But no, you gotta shove it through and vote on it. I know how it goes. I already rented when I used to come to the meetings all the time. I had to rent a place at the Vest Hall to have my own private meeting with people because they wouldn't listen to us on the road, on Oak Street. And I don't understand why it's all special assessment. You go to Britain, you go to Petersburg, you go to Maybe, you go to Ida. There's no special assessment. The roads is one of the main things. We seem to find green spots, which is right across from each other, which I don't understand that. I don't have a problem with it. I keep all my stuff organized, neat. You've seen how everything I got is, Tim. Organized, neat. That's how I was raised. But I was raised with values to where you care about kids and you care about the people. And you just, it seems like that's going to the wayside. I know that water, whatever. Another thing that I'd like to say is, for our village police department, are they supposed to be in the village? Or, and how many police do we have in this town? 25 or 30 with the sheriffs and the state police and our village police? Why can't the village be in the village? And yes, they do go out almost to Cone Road, and they go out almost to Summerfield Road. I mean, for a speeding ticket? What about just being right here, protecting the people? I disagree with that, but that's me. And when I listen tonight, it seems like there's only about a couple of people that care about me, the little guys in this town, the people that started this town. Where this building is, used to be the Dundee dump. Nobody here probably remembers that. I do. This was the dump. Then I voted against that building being built, told them about the floods. They pushed it through anyhow. Doesn't matter. Just like everything gets pushed through. And Jack's A&W. All the stuff that we used to know, that we grew up with, our history. And why couldn't that have been a one-way street? Did we have to have both them green spaces right next to each other? A stone throw away? Couldn't we have had one on the other end of town? That end of town? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, all you did is take half of Chris's profit away. Whatever he could have sold that building for is worth about half now. That street should have been a one-way street. At least people could have came down it, turned right on Main, turned on to 50. But what's done is done, but do I agree with it? No, not at all. I'm just a citizen here that pays my taxes, and I would like to at least, like I'm doing tonight, have my say. And I just don't agree with a lot of the stuff. That's all. And I think sometimes you rush to judgment. And I hate seeing history taken away. And I hate seeing little kids crying. And when they come to my place, there's a toy there for them. And it seems like when you take cursive out of school, you take the spanking out of school, you just take away history, the people that built this place. And it's like, I feel like I'm the little guy that invested the most. I'd hate to tell you what I got invested on Roosevelt Street. And I get the least amount of respect for it.
All right. Thanks, Howard. You've had your 4 minutes, and thank you. I would like to say something that I forgot to say earlier. There was a little boy over in Milan that had a lemonade stand, and he only planned to make $100, and he ended up making close to $1,200, and then he donated the money, and I thought that was very, very nice. That being said, we have no closed session, and I make a motion that we adjourn.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
We're adjourned. Sorry that it took so long tonight.
I agree with you, but I guess I'm not starting.